Unusual activity has been detected from your device. Try again later. This is the moment you realize the war was never outside of you. The battles were never truly with other people. Not the ones who lied, not the ones who left, not the ones who disrespected you, disappointed you, or pushed your buttons. The real war was always inside, between who you've been and who you're capable of becoming, between the part of you that reacts and the part of you that rises, between the identity shaped by old wounds and the identity built by conscious choice. This is your turning point. Because you can't keep handing your peace to people who don't value it. You can't keep offering your emotional power to every loud voice, every rude gesture, every temporary frustration. You were not made to live on edge. You were not built to crack under pressure. There is something far greater within you, something that's been waiting for permission to lead. You are not your reactions. You are not your triggers. You are not your past. You are the awareness behind all of it, the silent observer who can step back, breathe deep, and choose a higher response. That choice, it changes everything, not just how you feel in the moment, but how you shape your future. Because when you stop letting the world dictate your state, you start owning your destiny. No longer pulled by every wave, no longer shaken by every storm, you become anchored, steady, calm, and the world notices. You begin to carry a presence that says, I'm not here to fight you. I'm here to master me. And mastery isn't about suppressing emotions. It's not pretending you're fine when you're not. It's about feeling fully, but acting wisely. Letting the fire burn through you without letting it burn you down. That kind of inner strength changes how you walk into every room. It changes how you lead, how you speak, how you live. Because now, you're not controlled by the noise around you. You're led by the clarity within you. The person who used to be quick to anger is gone. The version of you that needed to prove something, win every argument, or hold every grudge, that version doesn't exist here anymore. What stands in its place is someone solid, grounded, unshakable. This isn't some unreachable ideal. It's who you become when you decide your peace matters more than your pride. When you decide that no one else gets to decide how you feel. That's the decision being made right now. Not by your circumstances, not by your past, by you. You can either stay trapped in patterns that cost you everything, or you can step into the emotional freedom that changes everything. This is the moment you rise, not because the world gave you peace, but because you became the source of it. From this point forward, your emotions serve you, your mind follows you, your life reflects you, and the war inside you, it ends now. There's a level of inner peace that can't be shaken by anything external, because it doesn't depend on anything external. Not on apologies, not on changed behavior, not on someone else finally understanding you. It comes from the moment you decide that nothing is worth more than your own state of calm. You stop waiting for the world to fix itself. You stop waiting for people to behave better, and instead you rise to a level of awareness where none of it has the power to disturb you. That's when the real shift happens. You stop reacting. You stop defending. You stop giving pieces of yourself away in every moment of frustration. And something deeper wakes up. A quiet strength that doesn't flinch, doesn't shake, doesn't collapse under pressure. You stop being the one who gets consumed by the fire. You become the one who carries it, directs it, transforms it. That version of you is already in there, waiting. It's not a fantasy. It's not something distant or unreachable. It's just buried under years of conditioning. Years of thinking you had to protect yourself. Years of emotional habits that served you once, but sabotage you now. But every time you pause, every time you breathe through it, every time you choose understanding over reaction, you peel back another layer. You get closer to who you really are beneath it all. Calm isn't weakness, it's control, emotional control. And in a world that profits off your outrage, staying calm is one of the most rebellious things you can do. Because now, you're no longer available for drama, no longer available for emotional chaos. You're not wasting another second of your life giving your energy to things that don't grow you. The difference between peace and rage is a single breath, a single conscious thought, a single decision to not take it personally. And you are fully capable of making that choice. You have always been capable. Every outburst, every regret, every moment you wish you could take back, it was never who you are. It was a moment you can now rise above. You are not your lowest moments. You are not your worst reactions. You are the one who learns, evolves, sharpens, and returns stronger every time. That's growth. That's power. That's ownership. And when you finally realize that no person, no comment, no situation deserves the keys to your nervous system, you take your life back. You stop being controlled. You start becoming the controller, the pilot, the calm in the storm. It's not about being emotionless. It's about being emotionally intelligent, feeling everything, but being ruled by nothing. And once you step into that level of control, your entire life changes. Relationships shift, energy clears, focus returns. You no longer live on edge, you live on purpose, calm, centered, and unbreakable. Because peace is no longer something you hope for, it's something you are. You were not born to live in reaction. You were born to lead your inner world with clarity, strength, and calm command. The people who trigger you do not hold real power over you. They are only mirrors that reveal where you still give your control away. And that awareness is a gift. Every time you feel the surge, the spike, the tension rise, you're being shown where your work is. Not punishment, not failure, just a moment calling for growth. You don't need to resent the trigger. You need to rise above it, because the trigger isn't the problem, the reaction is. The moment you shift the focus from them to you, everything changes. Now, you're no longer stuck in blame. You're in power. You're no longer waiting for things to go your way. You're creating the way forward. And that forward path is built on emotional responsibility. No more saying, they made me angry. No more giving your inner state to someone else's behavior. They did what they did. But how you respond, that's always yours. That's the gateway to true power. Because now, you're not chasing peace, you're choosing it over and over again until it becomes who you are. You stop walking into situations hoping things won't upset you. You walk in knowing nothing can. Not because you're numb, but because you're wise. Not because you're disconnected, but because you're grounded. You know how to feel without falling. You know how to breathe without breaking. You've trained yourself to meet chaos with stillness. And that kind of presence cannot be faked. It's built, forged through discipline and intention. There will always be people who are careless with their words. There will always be moments that don't go as planned. But now, those things don't define you. They don't rattle you. You respond like someone who owns their space, who protects their peace like it's sacred, because it is. You're not here to be easily moved. You're not here to be shaken by every opinion, every insult, every minor storm. You're here to stand firm in who you are, with a nervous system that says, I don't need to fight. I already won. And winning doesn't mean silence. It doesn't mean passivity. It means power with precision. It means clarity without chaos. It means knowing that the most dangerous person in any room is the one who can stay calm when everyone else is losing control. That's you now. Not reactive, not impulsive, but calculated, present, and deeply intentional. This is the emotional edge you've been searching for. It doesn't come from being louder. It comes from being quieter inside. Because peace isn't just a feeling. It's a strategy. It's a decision. And it's available to you in every breath, every pause, every moment you choose not to give your power away. This is not weakness. This is the highest form of strength, and it lives in you. Emotional control is not about holding back. It's about holding steady. You are not suppressing your feelings. You are channeling them. That's the difference between power and pressure. Pressure explodes. Power directs. You are no longer reacting to life with scattered emotion. You are responding with grounded presence. And that shift, that deep inner stillness, is what makes you unshakable. You're not bottling up pain. You're processing it with maturity. You're not avoiding conflict. You're mastering the space within yourself so conflict can't master you. Because real strength isn't loud. It's quiet. It's calm. It's the ability to hold space for discomfort without becoming it. That's where your authority comes from. Not from fear. Not from anger. But from a mind that stays clear under pressure. A heart that stays soft under fire. And a presence that doesn't move just because everything around it does. You stop being driven by the urge to be right. You start being led by the desire to be wise. You stop needing the last word. You start choosing the right energy. Because you've learned that every emotional reaction has a cost, and your peace is too expensive to waste on things that don't deserve it. Every time you take the bait, you lose. Every time you let someone drag you into their chaos, you shrink. But every time you pause, breathe, and respond with clarity, you grow. You rise. You win without fighting. That's how emotional intelligence becomes emotional dominance. Not by overpowering others, but by no longer being overpowered by them. Now, you carry yourself differently. You don't chase validation. You don't need external agreement to feel aligned. Because you know who you are. And when you know who you are, no one can shake you with words. No situation can pull you into chaos unless you allow it. And you've decided that your peace is non-negotiable. That decision shapes everything. Your tone, your posture, your presence. You no longer flinch when misunderstood. You no longer panic when things don't go your way. You adjust, you breathe, you respond. You move with control, with intention, with precision. And that's what makes you powerful. You've outgrown the version of you that used to take things personally. You've outgrown the self that felt threatened by every disagreement, every delay, every disappointment. Now, you don't just have peace, you are peace. It radiates from how you carry yourself, how you speak, how you think. You don't just talk about emotional control, you embody it. And people feel it, because it's real, it's earned, it's practiced. And it makes you unstoppable, not because nothing affects you, but because nothing breaks you. You feel everything, but you're owned by nothing. That is freedom. That is control. That is the life you step into, not one day, not someday, but right now. Because the choice to lead your emotions begins here, and this time, you're not turning back. You cannot become the strongest version of yourself while still letting every little thing steal your peace. Growth requires emotional discipline. It demands that you stop letting small minds pull you into small battles. You don't need to prove anything to anyone, not your worth, not your value, not your truth. The minute you argue with noise, you become part of it. The moment you defend your calm, you lose it. So you no longer entertain what doesn't align with your higher self. You observe, you process, you choose your response. That's where your evolution lives, in the space between what happened and how you respond to it. Most people never find that space. They live on autopilot, pushed and pulled by their surroundings, slaves to their emotions. But not you. Not anymore. You've stepped into awareness. And awareness is freedom. You see things differently now. You don't just hear words, you understand intent. You don't just feel emotion, you decode its root. You don't just react, you respond with vision. This is what separates those who live in chaos from those who live with clarity. The storm isn't gone, but you've become the one who's calm in the center of it. And that calm is unbreakable because it doesn't come from outside. It's built from within. It's not a mood. It's not a phase. It's your new baseline. Because when you control your emotions, you control your energy. And when you control your energy, you control your life. You no longer wait for the world to be peaceful to find peace. You bring it. You carry it into rooms, into conversations, into challenges. You become the one who shifts energy just by being present. Not because you're louder, not because you're more forceful, but because your stillness speaks louder than noise ever could. That stillness doesn't mean passivity. It means precision. You don't waste energy anymore. You don't give your power to problems that don't deserve it. You've learned that not every reaction is a response. Not every conflict is a call to engage. Sometimes silence is the most powerful move. Sometimes detachment is the highest wisdom. And now, you protect your peace like your life depends on it, because it does. Your health, your relationships, your focus, your future. Everything flows from the quality of your internal state. So you feed it with awareness. You guard it with boundaries. You honor it with choices. You've stopped being addicted to drama. You've stopped being drawn to dysfunction. And you've started leading yourself from a place of vision, not emotion. That's not just growth. That's transformation. And it's permanent. Because once you taste this level of control, chaos loses its flavor. You don't crave it. You don't need it. You rise above it. And from that elevation, you see it all clearly. What once disturbed you now develops you. What once provoked you now passes through you. Because you've become the master of your inner world. And nothing outside can ever shake that again. You don't need to be unaffected to be in control. You just need to stop letting emotions make decisions for you. Feeling something is not a weakness. Letting it own you is. You are allowed to feel frustration, disappointment, sadness, but you're not required to obey it. Emotional strength is the ability to feel fully and still act wisely. The difference between growth and chaos is what you do with that emotion. Do you explode? Do you spiral? Or do you channel it into clarity, into movement, into power? This is what separates the reactive from the resilient. Reaction is easy, it's immediate, it's loud. But resilience is quiet, it's measured. It waits for truth to rise above impulse. That is your edge now. You wait, you breathe, you lead with awareness, not agitation. Every time you choose to stay calm, you break a cycle, a generational pattern, an unconscious habit, a moment that could have gone sideways but didn't. Because you chose presence over pressure. That decision ripples through everything, your tone, your words, your posture, your outcomes. You're no longer the one who adds fuel to the fire. You're the one who brings water, balance, calm resolution. That makes you rare. That makes you dangerous, in the best way possible. Because now, you don't rise to chaos. You lower chaos to your level of control. You don't match negative energy. You transform it. You've become so emotionally grounded that nothing can pull you out of alignment without your permission. And that's not luck, that's discipline, that's self-respect. That's the power of becoming fully conscious. You begin to recognize the difference between urgency and importance, between reaction and response, between what feels good now and what serves you long term. That gap is where wisdom lives, and you've chosen to live there, not because it's easy, but because it's free. Free from regret, free from unnecessary conflict, free from being hijacked by emotion and held hostage by your own reactions. Now you walk through life with emotional armor, not the kind that hardens you, but the kind that protects your peace. You no longer personalize disrespect. You no longer internalize noise. You let people be who they are, while you remain grounded in who you've decided to be. And when tension rises, you don't rise with it. You remain still. You remain intentional. That stillness is power. Not silence out of fear, but silence built from strength. Because you've trained yourself to respond, not react, to lead, not lash out, to protect your state like it's the foundation of everything. Because it is. And now, it all feels different. Not lighter, not easier, but clearer. You're no longer fighting to be heard. You're no longer exhausting yourself trying to fix what's not yours to carry. You've turned inward. You've strengthened your core. You've built a level of calm that cannot be broken from the outside, and that calm is now your compass, guiding every step, every word, every choice with unwavering control. When you stop letting emotions run your life, you begin to live with precision. Not everything that demands your reaction deserves your attention. Not every situation needs your energy. Not every word needs a response. You don't rise to meet chaos anymore. You rise above it. You conserve your power. You recognize that energy is a currency, and you've stopped spending it on people and problems that only drain you. Emotional maturity means being able to sit with your feelings without being ruled by them. It means observing the storm without becoming it. And it means no longer being seduced by the rush of conflict, because you've tasted the deeper satisfaction of inner stability. That's what makes you unshakable. Not because life gets easier, because you get stronger. There will still be challenges, still be misunderstandings, still be pressure. But now, your nervous system is trained. You don't collapse when tension hits. You don't crumble at the first sign of disrespect. You remain calm, clear, controlled, and that level of groundedness becomes your identity. You're no longer acting calm. You are calm. You're no longer pretending to be centered. You've built your center, and it's rooted so deeply that nothing can move you unless you allow it. The real shift happens when you no longer need the world to adjust for you to feel balanced. You adjust yourself. You master your breathing. You master your thinking. You master your tone, your reactions, your focus. That mastery gives you choices most people never access. While others lash out, you lead. While others spiral, you anchor. While others defend, you observe. You're not avoiding reality. You're rising above its noise. Because your clarity matters more than your ego. Your growth matters more than your pride. And your peace matters more than proving a point. There is no need to yell when you're rooted in truth. No need to fight when you're aligned with purpose. The moment you realize that silence, stillness, and self-control are weapons sharper than anger, you begin to live on a new level. Your energy becomes rare. Your presence becomes commanding, not because of force, but because of restraint. Not because of dominance, but because of discipline. People feel it. They sense the power in your pause. They see the strength in your calm. And more importantly, you feel it within yourself. That's the reward. That's the freedom. The internal knowing that you're no longer a prisoner to your past reactions. And now, you move different. You speak with care. You think with clarity. You breathe with intention. Because every moment is an opportunity to either repeat the old pattern or reinforce the new standard. You've chosen the standard. You've chosen the version of yourself that no longer breaks under pressure but sharpens within it. That kind of self-control doesn't make you cold. It makes you unstoppable. Because once you own your reactions, you own your power. And once you own your power, nothing and no one can take it from you again. There is a deeper power that comes when you stop reacting and start reflecting. When you train your mind to pause before you respond, everything changes. That pause creates space, and in that space you reclaim your authority. You are no longer a servant to your impulses. You are no longer chained to automatic behaviors learned through fear, ego, or survival. You are now in charge. You decide how to feel, how to think, how to move forward. And that decision, repeated over and over, becomes your new emotional foundation. It doesn't mean you don't feel anger. It means anger no longer speaks for you. It doesn't mean disappointment won't come. It means it doesn't define you, because the one who pauses holds the power, and the one who holds the power creates the outcome. When you shift your focus from reaction to responsibility, you rise. You stop pointing fingers and start taking control. You stop asking why they acted that way, and start asking why you allowed it to affect you. That shift pulls you out of victimhood and places you in command, and from that command, you find clarity. You begin to recognize that your emotions are signals, not shackles. They are meant to inform you, not control you. When sadness shows up, you listen. When frustration arises, you learn. When anger flares, you observe. But you do not let any of them drive the car. You sit in the driver's seat. You hold the wheel. And every choice you make behind that wheel determines who you become. You are no longer at war with your emotions. You've made peace with them. You've turned them into allies. And that peace becomes your new weapon. Not a weapon to attack, but a weapon to protect. To protect your vision, your energy, your growth. Not everyone will understand it. Not everyone will match it. But that doesn't matter anymore. You're not here to control others. You're here to master yourself. And in mastering yourself, you become untouchable in the best way. You no longer chase validation. You no longer seek revenge. You no longer try to force change where it doesn't belong. You walk in your own energy, fully aware of who you are, and fully unwilling to give that away for anything or anyone. Because peace isn't passive, it's powerful. It's built moment by moment, breath by breath, choice by choice. It's built when you choose not to raise your voice, when you choose not to explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you, when you choose not to carry the weight of other people's dysfunction. That's real strength. Quiet, steady, focused, and you've earned it. You've earned the right to live free from the chaos you once thought was normal. You've earned the right to feel what you feel without being overwhelmed by it. And now, you live from power, not reaction. You speak from wisdom, not emotion. You move from purpose, not pressure. And that changes everything. You are no longer here to survive your emotions. You are here to lead them. The chaos that once ruled your mind no longer has the final say. The waves still come, but you no longer drown. You've learned how to stand firm, how to breathe deep, how to stay rooted while the wind howls around you. That kind of inner stability is rare. It's not built by avoiding pressure. It's built by learning how to remain calm inside it. You've stepped out of emotional survival and into emotional strategy. You're not guessing anymore. You're choosing. You're not reacting out of habit. You're responding with precision. Every time you choose calm over chaos, you're proving to yourself that you are in control now. This isn't about perfection. This is about power. The power to recognize that a triggered mind isn't your truth. It's a temporary signal. The power to see that someone else's actions don't determine your peace unless you hand them that power. And you've stopped handing it over. You've stopped letting outside noise shake your inner knowing. You don't just want peace. You are peace. Because you've committed to it. Because you've decided that the cost of being reactive is far too high. And that decision is the dividing line between the life you had and the life you now lead. There is no growth in blaming others for your emotional state. There is no strength in waiting for people to change before you feel better. That's not leadership. That's dependency. And you've outgrown that. You no longer carry the emotional weight of people who won't take responsibility for their own. You no longer invest your energy into proving your worth to those who can't see it. You no longer give your power to temporary situations. You rise. You lead. You stay grounded no matter what the world throws your way. And that groundedness is now your default. Not because life got easier, but because you got wiser. You understand now that peace isn't found in the absence of conflict. It's created in your ability to handle it. The world doesn't need to be quiet for you to be calm, because calm lives inside you now. It moves with you. It speaks through you. It shapes how you think, how you speak, how you show up. You've chosen clarity over confusion, presence over panic, power over pressure. And that choice builds a life where you are no longer at the mercy of your moods. You are building emotional muscle, the kind that doesn't flinch, the kind that doesn't fold, the kind that knows how to sit with pain, with anger, with discomfort, without losing direction. That's what makes you different now. Not colder, not detached. Just deeply rooted, fully in command, fully awake. And from this level of awareness, nothing pulls you backward. Because you've seen what it's like to be ruled by emotion. And now you've tasted what it's like to rise above it. That's the life you're creating. One breath, one choice, one powerful response at a time. You are not here to be emotionally reactive. You are here to be emotionally resilient. When the old patterns rise, When the heat of anger pulses through your body, when your mind wants to strike, defend, or retreat, you now know better. You no longer chase control over others. You claim control over yourself. That is the highest form of discipline. To not let temporary emotions dictate permanent outcomes. To not let someone else's chaos pull you out of alignment with your values. You've lived that cycle before. You know how much it costs. Your energy, your time, your peace. And now you've decided that nothing is worth more than staying true to who you've chosen to become. There is no freedom in lashing out. There is no power in reacting without awareness. Anyone can get angry. Anyone can explode. But very few can remain composed when everything inside them is screaming to do the opposite. That kind of composure doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care too much about your peace to let it be hijacked. It means you've built the strength to feel everything fully without letting it break your focus. You are no longer an emotional passenger. You are in the driver's seat, fully awake, fully responsible, fully aware. Every emotion that rises is a message, not a command. Just because it's loud doesn't mean it's right. Just because it's strong doesn't mean it should lead. You are the interpreter now. You decide which thoughts to follow and which to release. You choose what gets to live in your mind and what must be let go. That level of choice is power. It's the difference between self-sabotage and self-mastery, between saying things you regret and speaking with precision, between burning bridges and building boundaries. You don't owe your energy to conflict. You don't owe your reaction to disrespect. You owe yourself clarity. You owe yourself peace. You owe yourself the life that can only be built by someone who knows how to lead themselves through emotional storms without sinking. That's who you are now. Someone who knows how to rise above the noise. Someone who knows how to sit with discomfort without running from it. Someone who doesn't chase being understood but chooses to understand. That's strength. That's emotional maturity. That's freedom. And every time you choose stillness over reaction, you reinforce a new identity. Every time you breathe instead of breaking, you hardwire a new standard. Not for the world, for yourself. Because nothing changes until you do. And you have. You've outgrown the need to prove your worth through conflict. You've stopped letting temporary feelings ruin permanent relationships. You've stopped losing yourself just to be heard. Now, you listen to yourself first. You guide yourself first. You lead from within. And that leadership is what turns reaction into response, emotion into elevation, and life into something powerful, peaceful, and completely your own. Unusual activity has been detected from your device. Try again later. 96B7, F5035, BAA8, C3, Chi. You've spent enough time being pulled by emotional reflexes that didn't serve you. Enough time letting outside events decide your mood, your response, your day. That version of you was never weak, it was just untrained. It didn't yet know that control isn't about suppression. It's about redirection. The mind, when trained, becomes a tool of precision. The body, when centered, becomes a home for stillness. Together, they form a state where peace is no longer something you look for. It's what you bring. It's how you walk, how you speak, how you carry yourself. It becomes your identity, not because you force it, but because you've practiced it. And now it's real. Discipline is not cold. Discipline is love in its most powerful form. It says, I care too much about my future to keep repeating my past. I care too much about my values to betray them in the heat of a moment. That's why you pause now. That's why you breathe. Not because you're afraid to speak, but because you've learned to speak from alignment, from power, from a place so grounded that nothing can shake your core. Emotional freedom begins when you stop giving everyone access to that core. Not every comment deserves your attention. Not every disagreement needs your voice. Not every trigger is worth your energy. You've learned to be selective, not reactive. And that selection is how you protect your power. There's a stillness in you now. Not the stillness of passivity, but the stillness of presence. The stillness that comes from knowing who you are, and no longer needing the world to confirm it. You've built enough self-awareness to observe your emotions without being owned by them. You can feel anger without becoming aggression. Feel sadness without becoming despair. Feel pressure without becoming panic. This is what it means to live in mastery, not above your emotions but in harmony with them. To use them as signals, not shackles. To move with intention, even when emotion runs high. You are becoming emotionally bulletproof, not because you are numb, but because you are clear. Clear about your standards, clear about your peace, clear about what gets to influence your state. And from that clarity, you live differently. You don't rush to defend yourself. You don't argue to be right. You don't lower your energy to meet someone else's chaos. You stay rooted in your choice, The choice to be led by wisdom, not woundedness, to be driven by vision, not by ego. That choice, repeated over and over, becomes the foundation of an unshakable life. You don't control the world. You never will. But you control yourself. You control the one thing that shapes every moment you live, your response. That is your gift, that is your edge, that is your freedom. And you protect it not just with willpower but with practice, because the strongest person is not the one who can yell the loudest. It's the one who can stay silent, stay calm, stay powerful, regardless of what chaos surrounds them. Emotional power is not something you find outside of yourself. It's built within. It is shaped by every choice you make when things get uncomfortable. It grows in silence, in solitude, in moments when nobody is watching, and you still choose your highest standard. That's where real strength lives. It's not about suppressing how you feel. It's about upgrading how you respond. About developing such deep inner security that nothing around you can hijack your peace. When the world tries to rush you, you remain still. When someone tries to provoke you, you remain grounded. Because you've stopped being a slave to chaos. You become the master of your internal world. The goal is not to feel nothing. The goal is to be so aligned with who you are that your emotions become your compass, not your cage. Every reaction you used to give away so freely is now a conscious decision. And in that decision, you take your power back. One breath at a time, one pause at a time, one self-aware moment at a time. You are no longer just reacting to the world. You are designing your state within it. And that changes everything, because when you master your state, you master your results. You master your relationships. You master your life. The moment you choose not to react, you create space. Space for clarity. Space for wisdom. Space for elevated action. That space is where transformation happens. It's in that space that you rewrite your identity, not as someone who snaps, not as someone who spirals, but as someone who remains steady, calm, and conscious, regardless of the external noise. It's not about pretending to be calm. It's about becoming someone who no longer needs to pretend. Someone who has done the inner work to feel everything, express nothing impulsively, and still move with power. You no longer give people the remote control to your emotions. You've taken it back. You decide how you feel. You decide what energy you allow in. You decide what energy you reflect. And that decision, consistently honored, creates a new reality, not just inside you, but around you. People will feel the difference. They'll feel the strength behind your silence, the peace behind your posture, the control behind your calm. Because you are no longer ruled by impulse. You are led by vision. You don't act out of pain. You act from purpose. And when you live from purpose, life begins to align. You attract peace because you radiate peace. You attract respect because you embody self-respect. You draw strength from your stillness and use that strength to lead, not just yourself, but others who are still searching for what you've found. The world will test you. People will challenge you. But you'll be ready. Not because you're perfect, but because you've practiced. And in that practice, you've built a new version of yourself. One that no longer breaks under pressure, but rises, breathes, and chooses power over reaction every single time. You are no longer interested in proving your strength to the world. You are focused on living it, not through volume, but through consistency. Not through force, but through presence. That is where real power lives. In the choice to remain unshaken, even when every part of you feels pulled to react. Emotional mastery doesn't happen by accident. It is built by choosing alignment over ego, peace over pride, and depth over drama. You've trained yourself to become aware in moments that used to control you, and now, what once triggered you becomes your training ground. It's not that life stopped challenging you. It's that you stopped collapsing under the weight of it. Everything begins with awareness. You've developed the ability to notice the moment before the reaction, the pause before the pattern. That space is your power. That space is where you interrupt the automatic and choose the intentional. You've taken responsibility not just for how you act, but for how you feel, how you process, and how you hold yourself through intensity. That's the shift. That's the evolution. And it's one most people never make, because they're too busy defending their anger, protecting their resentment, and justifying their chaos. But you've decided that your peace is more valuable than being right, that your energy is more precious than being heard by someone who refuses to listen. When you reach this level, you stop needing others to behave a certain way for you to feel okay. You stop outsourcing your peace to people who haven't even mastered their own. Instead, you become your own anchor. You become your own source of emotional stability. That doesn't mean you won't feel. It means you're no longer afraid to feel without falling apart. It means you've built a relationship with your emotions where you can hold them, observe them, and release them. without being consumed. That is power. That is freedom. That is who you are becoming. You've stopped reacting from wounds and started responding from wisdom. You've let go of needing to win battles that don't matter. And because of that, you've already won the only battle that ever did, the one within yourself. You've moved beyond surface responses. You've reached the place where you choose what you carry and what you release. And when you live from that place, everything becomes lighter. Your thoughts, your relationships, your future. You start moving from clarity instead of confusion, from stillness instead of survival. This is the strength most people never find, because they're too focused on controlling the world instead of mastering themselves. But you've seen the truth. You've realized that peace is not given. It is created. It is chosen, over and over, even in the face of chaos. Especially in the face of chaos. You are that choice now. You are the one who no longer fuels fire with fire. You breathe, you ground, you rise. And in doing so, you become untouchable by everything that once held power over you. You no longer need chaos to feel alive. You've remembered that calm is not a weakness. It is the highest form of control. While others chase drama to distract from their own pain, you sit with yourself and confront it. While others explode to feel powerful, you go inward and transform. You've reached the point where silence speaks louder than rage ever could. You've realized that nothing outside of you has the right to pull you out of alignment unless you allow it. And now you've stopped allowing it. You've taken back what always belonged to you. Your center, your clarity, your command over your own energy. The real shift happened when you stopped seeing your emotions as enemies. You stopped running from them and started listening. You understood that anger, resentment, frustration, none of them are wrong. They're signals, messengers, clues pointing toward the places that still needed healing. And instead of avoiding them or dumping them on others, you did the hard thing. You listened, you learned, and you led yourself through them. That's what it means to become emotionally sovereign. You no longer abandon yourself just to keep others comfortable. You no longer explode just to release pressure. You feel fully, but you act wisely. You observe the storm without becoming it. You've stopped chasing apologies that may never come. You've stopped needing people to change so you can heal. You've realized that waiting for others to give you peace is like waiting for the wind to hold still. It's pointless, and it keeps you stuck. So you stopped waiting. You chose to heal anyway. You chose to breathe anyway. You chose to rise anyway. That choice was your liberation. That choice is what separates you from the version of yourself that used to be triggered, reactive, volatile, and emotionally exhausted. You've become your own source. You've become the one who doesn't just survive. You lead, you elevate, you transcend. You no longer live in reaction mode. You live in creation mode. You're not trying to control how others speak, act, or think. You're mastering how you respond, how you carry yourself, how you stay rooted in your own power no matter what energy walks into the room. That's real strength. Not loud, not forceful, not aggressive, but grounded, calm, present. Because anyone can scream, anyone can lash out. It takes no mastery to lose your temper, but it takes everything to stay centered when every nerve is pulling you away from peace. That's what you've built. That's what you continue to build. A state of being that no external circumstance can touch. You are no longer ruled by triggers. You are no longer a slave to emotional volatility. You have chosen the harder path, the path of discipline, awareness, and self-command. And in doing so, you've stepped into a life of clarity, strength, and peace that few will ever understand. Not because you're better than anyone, but because you were willing to do what most people won't. Now you no longer seek to be understood by those who choose not to understand. You no longer beg for validation from people who haven't even begun to validate themselves. You're done shrinking your truth just to keep others comfortable in their illusions. You've outgrown the need to explain your peace to people addicted to conflict, because you finally see that not everyone is meant to walk with you. Not everyone is meant to meet you in this stillness. Some will misread your calm for weakness. Some will try to provoke the old version of you, just to feel more powerful. But that version of you no longer exists, and you have no obligation to prove otherwise. Your growth is not for show, it's not for applause, it's for you, for your freedom, for your evolution. You've taken back the keys to your emotional world, and you don't hand them out to anyone anymore. No one gets to decide how you feel unless you give them that power, and you've stopped giving it away. That's why you no longer rise to every insult. That's why you no longer bite the bait of drama. That's why your silence now echoes louder than any argument. You've realized that peace isn't passive, it's a decision, a practice, a powerful choice made in the face of noise, pressure, and chaos. You are no longer the emotional puppet of the world around you. You're not pulled in every direction by what others say or do. You observe, you feel, and then you choose. That's the difference. You've stopped reacting from wounds. You've started responding from wisdom. You pause. You breathe. You process. Then you act, not from pain, not from ego, but from truth. That's what it means to lead yourself. That's what it means to live intentionally. And now, every moment is an opportunity to stay aligned with the version of you that no longer needs to fight to be heard or seen. The real power is in restraint. The real strength is in not needing to win every battle. You win by walking away from the ones that drain your soul. You win by refusing to participate in games that cost you your peace. You win by being so deeply connected to your values that you're not shaken by temporary emotions or passing storms. Because storms will pass. People will come and go. Opinions will shift like the wind. But what stays is your ability to hold your center, to choose how you show up, to choose not just what you say, but whether you need to say anything at all. This is the life you've earned through inner work, a life where anger doesn't own you, where peace isn't just a concept, it's your reality. You didn't find it by escaping, you built it by facing everything within you. You rose above your triggers, your habits, your patterns. And now, you don't just survive, you lead from within. This is who you've become, and no one can take that from you. The moment you stopped letting emotions control your responses, you stepped into a different kind of power. Not the loud kind that demands attention, but the quiet, unshakable kind that commands respect. Because real strength isn't shown in how you strike back, it's shown in how you hold your ground without needing to. You've realized that not everything requires your reaction. Not everything deserves your energy. You now understand that every emotional outburst is a transaction, and the cost is always your peace. So you've stopped trading your calm for validation. You've stopped renting out your mind to people who haven't earned your trust. You've drawn a boundary within yourself, and that boundary is sacred. There is clarity in your stillness now. There's intention behind your silence. You're not holding back because you're afraid. You're holding back because you're in control. Control doesn't mean suppression. It means mastery. It means seeing your triggers without letting them lead. It means feeling deeply without being dragged down. It means acknowledging the storm without becoming it. You've learned to witness the rise of emotion without being swept away. You no longer need to fix every misunderstanding. You no longer chase closure in places that never had space for your truth. You've learned that some peace only arrives when you stop needing others to see what you see. And that shift, that deep internal shift, is what separates you from who you used to be. You used to react from survival. Now you respond from awareness. You used to need others to validate your feelings. Now you validate them yourself. You used to feel out of control when things didn't go your way. Now you adapt, you breathe, and you remember that your power isn't in what happens. It's in how you meet it. That mindset alone has freed you from countless invisible chains. It has given you something no one else can give you: choice. You choose how long you suffer. You choose whether to dwell or to let go. You choose whether to be defined by pain or shaped by growth. Every time you choose peace, you break an old pattern. Every time you let go instead of lashing out, you create space for healing. Every time you stay grounded when everything wants to pull you off balance, you evolve. And that evolution compounds, day by day, breath by breath, choice by choice. This is the discipline of the mind, the alignment of thought, feeling, and response. It's not about being perfect, it's about being present. Present enough to notice when you're slipping. Present enough to pause before reacting. Present enough to steer your life instead of being steered by emotion. This is not passive living. This is the warrior's path. The path of emotional maturity. The path of true self-mastery. And you're on it now, not by accident, but by decision. You didn't arrive here through luck. You arrived here through effort, through awareness, through choosing yourself over and over again. And that choice is what makes you unstoppable. You've come too far to let the noise inside your head pull you back into patterns that once buried you. The old impulses may still whisper, but you no longer listen. You've trained yourself to pause, to breathe, to ask if the path you're about to take honors your evolution. That awareness is a gift you earned, not through comfort but through confrontation. You faced your own shadows and refused to run. You made the decision to stop being your own enemy. And now, you move differently. Not from fear, but from alignment. Not from desperation, but from discipline. The same pain that once weakened you has now sharpened you. It didn't break you, it woke you. It showed you where you were leaking energy, where you were still seeking approval, where you were sacrificing your truth just to be accepted by people who couldn't even accept themselves. That's over now. You've reclaimed your voice. You've stepped into your own authority, and no matter how quiet that power may feel, it is unwavering. Because it's not rooted in control over others, but control over yourself. And that control is your anchor. When life throws chaos at you, you don't shrink. You expand. You ground deeper. You remember who you are. You've outgrown the version of you that needed everything to go right just to feel okay. Now you can walk through discomfort with your head held high, because your sense of worth no longer depends on conditions outside of you. You've stopped chasing approval because you've built something far more powerful, self-respect. You no longer explain your boundaries. You enforce them. You no longer beg to be seen. You see yourself. You no longer water yourself down to be digestible. You've learned that anyone who can't handle your truth is simply not aligned with your path. And that's not rejection. It's redirection toward people, places, and paths that honor the person you've become. Your mind is sharper. Your emotions no longer run wild. You've embraced discomfort as the gateway to growth. You've made peace with the fact that transformation isn't glamorous. It's not instant. It's not always visible, but it's real. It's felt in the quiet moments where you choose not to react. It's visible in the small decisions that no one sees. It's built in the silence, in the solitude, in the discipline of rising again when no one is clapping. And you rise. You rise not because it's easy, but because it's who you are now. A person who refuses to settle. A person who demands more from life by becoming more within. This is your standard now. This is your rhythm. You no longer need chaos to feel alive. You no longer need permission to take up space. You've earned your peace through the fire of self-confrontation. And now, you move from a place of quiet conviction. No longer proving, no longer chasing, just becoming, every day, relentlessly.